Welcome to the Alison Howard podcast, where high-achieving women elevate their identity, expand what's possible, and create a life of true abundance. I'm Alison Howard. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the podcast, or if you're watching on YouTube, welcome. I'm Alison Howard, and today I want to talk to you about something that is definitely shaping nearly every part of your life, whether you realize it or not, and you probably don't realize it. And I'm not talking about your goals. I'm not talking about your strategy if you're in business. I'm not talking about your talent or even your level of desire. What I'm talking about is your self-image. Because whether you are aware of it or not, and like I said, most of us are just not aware of it, the life that you are currently living is deeply connected to this picture that you hold of yourself internally. It's connected to who you believe yourself to be. And it's connected to what you believe that you're worthy of, what you believe is available to you, and also what feels normal for someone like you to experience. And this is why so many women can want more with all their heart and still keep recreating the same life, living that same loop. So a lot of women want more income, but they still see themselves as someone who struggles. They want a better relationship, but they still see themselves as overlooked or misunderstood or not even chosen. They want to grow their businesses. They want to become more visible or move into a higher level of leadership, but they still carry an inner picture of themselves as this hesitant, uncertain, person who is not ready or not quite enough. So today I want to walk you through what self-image actually is, how it gets formed, how it's definitely controlling your results, and how to begin changing it in a way that feels calm, that doesn't feel stressful, that feels grounded and practical and very accessible, even if you are brand new to this work. And so once you understand this, so many things in your life and in your business are going to begin to make sense. Okay. So let's talk about what the self image actually is. So when I use the phrase self image, I'm talking about this internal picture that you have of yourself. I'm talking about the identity that you have accepted as true about you. I'm talking about the way that you see yourself in relation to success or love or confidence or money or leadership or peace, or rest or possibility or visibility, all of those things. So your self-image is not simply what you say about yourself in a motivational moment. It's not what you post online, okay? It's not even always what you consciously believe to be true about yourself. Your self-image is this much deeper internal construct that determines what feels normal, what feels safe, what feels realistic to you. Okay, what feels available to you. So, for example, a woman may say that she wants to make $20,000 a month in her business. Awesome. But if her self image still sees herself as someone who is always struggling, always behind, always confused, always trying to figure it out, or always proving herself, then that bigger level of success is not going to feel natural to her. It may sound exciting in theory, but internally, it still feels very foreign and uncomfortable. Another example, a woman may say that she wants peace in her marriage. But if her self-image has been shaped around feeling unseen, caring too much, expecting disappointment all the time, then even when opportunities for connection appear, she may actually interpret them through that lens of hurt and defensiveness or mistrust. So this is why self-image matters so much. It acts like this internal thermostat, right? It calibrates you to a certain level of life experience, and then it works to keep things within that familiar range. Okay. And this isn't because you're broken. I want to just be very clear about that. This is not because any of us are broken. It is because the mind and the nervous system are designed to preserve what feels known, because what feels known is what feels safe. And our mind, our nervous system just wants to keep us safe. So it's actually a precious thing, but there is a way to get out of that. Okay. So let's talk about why you don't get what you want. You get what feels comfortable for you. Okay. So one of the most important things to understand in this work is that you don't simply get what you want. Okay. When you're doing mindset work, when you're doing manifestation, prayer, all of those things, you don't just get to genie in the bottle it, right? You don't get what you want. You get what matches who you believe yourself to be. And that's why wanting something is great, but it's not enough. If wanting were enough, so many women would already be living entirely different lives. They would already be in the dream home. They would be, experiencing this thriving business. They would have this deeply connected marriage. They would have great relationships with their children and friends. They would have moved away to that place that they've been dreaming of living in. They would have this next level of freedom, this next level of peace. So wanting, I think, is very powerful because it points you toward desire, right? It gives you a clue as to what it is that makes your heart beat, what it is that you desire. It gives you direction. It reveals what's calling you forward, but wanting by itself does not override your identity. Your self-image determines what you permit, okay? Your self-image determines what you pursue consistently, what you believe you can sustain. And then also your self-image determines what you unconsciously sabotage because we all do that. Okay. So let me just make this really, really simple for you. If you see yourself as someone who always quits, then every hard season that you experience is going to tempt you to quit because you already see yourself as a quitter. If you see yourself as someone who is not chosen, then you may overlook evidence of love and you may instead, magnify signs of rejection in your life. If you see yourself as someone who is always overwhelmed, always chaotic, then peace is going to feel really unnatural to you. It's going to feel very unfamiliar, even when peace is available to you. And if you see yourself as someone who is small or hidden or not fully ready, then being seen, putting yourself out there is going to feel very threatening. It's not going to feel exciting or expansive. It's going to feel really scary. So this is why self-image is such a powerful force. It's a powerful hidden force because people don't actually think about these things in depth. Self-image influences your interpretation of reality. It influences your behavior. It influences what your body expects. And it also influences what level of life you are going, what level of life you're actually willing to normalize. So in many ways, your self-image is the lens through which your entire life is filtered. So how is self-image formed then, right? If we want to change some things about our own self-image, where do we start? All right, let's talk about how it gets formed because I think this part brings a lot of compassion into the process because your self image just didn't appear out of nowhere. It was shaped over time through different experiences, through repeated thoughts, through emotional moments that you've experienced, through your family dynamics as a child, cultural, messages. It was formed through different disappointments and celebrations and praise and correction and comparison and survival strategies that you've just adopted throughout your life. So you may have grown up receiving the message that being good meant being agreeable, being really easy, low key, low maintenance, self sacrificing, all of those things. And over time, that can shape a self image of, a woman who is highly attuned to others, but really disconnected from herself and from her own desires. And you may have experienced criticism or instability and learned that staying small actually felt pretty safe. It felt safer than being fully expressed. That can shape a self image that says, okay, don't be too much. Don't take up too much space. Don't be too loud. And don't draw too much attention to yourself. I definitely know how that feels. And a lot of the clients I work with are high achieving women who have heard that at some point. They're like, you talk too much. You're too loud. You're too much. You're taking up too much space. Uh, don't take up all the attention, all those things. So, but you may have been praised for being responsible. You may have been the responsible one, the strong one, the one who always handled everything. That can create a self-image of a woman who is hyper capable, but deeply uncomfortable receiving help or rest. Are these things resonating with you? Maybe you had dreams and desires that felt misunderstood, or you had dreams and desires that were dismissed, or delayed. And over time, you developed the self image of someone who wants more, who would love more, but doesn't really expect it to happen. The reason this matters is because once you understand that self image was formed, you can also understand that it can be reformed. This is great news. So it is not your destiny. It's not, your fixed personality. It's not who you truly are at the deepest level. It's a conditional picture. And conditioned pictures can change. This is part of why this work is so powerful. And it's also why I care so much about helping women do it. Doing this work brings me so much joy. Sometimes inside my coaching or inside my community, women finally have, you can see the light bulb go on. They have language for patterns that they've been living with for years. And you can see that there's so much relief in realizing, oh, okay, this is not just random. This has a structure, this has a reason, this has a formula, and this can actually change. So let's make this, even more practical. So let's say a woman wants to start showing up more boldly online. She wants to share her message. Whether she's an entrepreneur or not, she has a message and she wants to be seen, she wants to lead. And on the surface, she tells herself she just needs a better strategy for how to go about this. She needs more consistency. But underneath that, her self image says, I am the kind of person who second guesses myself. I am the kind of person who worries about what people think. I am the kind of person who hesitates. Even when I get I know I've gotten like a Holy Spirit download, I'm going to hesitate. I'm the kind of person who gets embarrassed. Okay, so what happens? She records the story and then she deletes it. She writes the post and then rewrites it 7 times. She plans the offer. She wants to share an offer that she has in her business and she delays sharing it because she's afraid. Or she decides to show up and she procrastinates all day, pulling back. So, another example. Let's say a woman wants more money. She says she is ready for more, but her self image still carries the identity of someone who has to work extremely hard, has to prove herself and her value all the time, and earn every good thing through stress and overexertion. So even if an opportunity for more money appears through ease and support and alignment, she may unconsciously distrust it. She may overcomplicate it. She may add pressure to it. She's going to sabotage. She creates unnecessary difficulty because the struggle feels more familiar than the actual ease of the overflow that's coming in. Or we can think about relationships. So a woman might say that she wants to feel more secure, more loved, more connected in her relationships, but her self-image is still carrying years of believing that she's too much or she's not enough or that somehow she's very difficult to love fully. So even when someone is kind and present and loving towards her, her internal lens may still scan for inconsistency or distance or signs that it's all about to disappear. The pattern is not the problem by itself. The deeper picture beneath the pattern is what matters. And the beautiful thing is that once you begin changing that inner picture of yourself, the external patterns are going to start to shift too, because as within, so without. Okay. So, I want to talk about why your self image is overriding your willpower because I find that this is something that's extremely common. And one reason that women feel frustrated a lot in this personal growth work is because they try to create change through willpower and grit alone while leaving the self image part untouched because it seems difficult. I think self image and identity work seems um, very woo woo or difficult. And I promise you it's not. So keep listening. These women will tell themselves, okay, I need to be more disciplined. I need to be more consistent. I need to just push through. But again, if the underlying self-image still identifies with these old patterns, then those efforts that she's putting forth, they're just going to feel exhausting. They're going to feel really unsustainable. So willpower can create temporary change, but self-image is what creates the lasting change. So if your self-image says, I am someone who always just has to struggle in order to get it done, then following through and getting the thing done is going to feel like an uphill battle. If your self image says, I am someone who creates results, then action begins to feel more natural. If your self image says, I am someone who is just always overlooked, I'm never chosen, no one ever invites me or reaches out to me, then being seen and putting yourself out there is not going to feel safe. And if your self image is saying, I'm someone whose voice matters, then that expression becomes easier. So this is why so much of the work that we do here is not really about forcing behavior. We don't want to do anything by force. It's about becoming the version of yourself for whom the new behavior is normal. It's neutral. It feels effortless. And this is why I always come back to this identity in this work. This is why identity is the cornerstone of all the work I do. So whether it's inside this podcast or YouTube episode, or inside my private community, the Inner Shift Society, or inside the private coaching that I do, the identity piece is never a side topic. It is always the main event. It is the structure underneath everything else. It's the most important work that we do in order to elevate and ascend in life and business. So, I want to talk a little bit about the subconscious. This is extremely important because self-image lives deeper than your conscious mind. Your conscious mind is the part of you that sets the goals, makes the plans and all the to-do lists, that listens to the podcast. Hello, conscious minds, and says, I want better. I know I want better in my life. It is the thinking part of you. It is the reasoning part of you. On the other side, your subconscious mind is the part of you where identity and habits and emotional like associations and your automatic patterns, it's where that lives. It is what runs in the background all the time. So even when your conscious mind wants something, your subconscious mind may still be organizing around something else. So here are a couple of examples of this, okay? So consciously, you may want more peace in your life, but subconsciously, you may be wired or calibrated towards chaos and urgency. Consciously, you may want more visibility. You want to get out there. You want to be talking on your stories. You want to inspire people. You want to make those reels. But subconsciously, you might associate that level of visibility with risk. Maybe consciously, you want more money. But subconsciously, you might associate more money with pressure, responsibility, or guilt. So, this is why women sometimes feel like they're fighting themselves. It's not because they're lazy, it's not because they're uncommitted. It's because there is this tension, there is this mismatch between conscious desire and subconscious identity. So the goal then is obviously to be kind to yourself. It's not to shame yourself into behaving better. We're not doing that. The goal is to bring these deeper patterns that you experience into awareness and start to reshape them through repetition, through truth, through safety, through community. That's why I love my private community, because we're all doing this work together, and through embodied practice. Okay. So let's talk about how you start to change your self image. Okay. I just want this to be super practical for you. I want to have takeaways. If you're listening to this and thinking, okay, I can definitely see this in my life, but how do I change it? That's what I want to walk you through. I want to walk you through a few starting points. So, the first thing that I recommend is to notice the version of you that keeps showing up. Okay. I want you to begin paying attention to the way that you describe yourself, the way that you anticipate different situations. And also, I want you to notice the way that you explain your patterns. So, listen for phrases like this: I'm just the kind of person who, or I've always struggled with, or, well, that's just how I am, or, well, people like me don't usually. Those sentences reveal your current self-image that's running in the background. So your subconscious wiring, your programming, okay? Second thing I want you to do is identify what feels normal to you. So normal meaning neutral. You're not threatened by it. You feel safe in it. So what level of success feels normal? What level of peace feels normal? What level of love feels normal? What level of visibility feels normal? And I don't want you to answer those questions based on what you want. I want you to answer those questions based on what your body and your mind are currently treating as familiar. So if making $100,000 a month, you say that, you're like, oh, that sounds really exciting. Like if you have that kind of a reaction, like, I would love that. That makes me feel so fired up and excited. That's currently not normal for you. So that's not your baseline. That's great though. I definitely want you to have that goal. But what level of success currently does feel normal? Okay. Because what feels normal tends to get repeated. We're just creating awareness around all these things right now. Okay. So this stuff, don't assign more meaning to it than what's necessary. Now, number 3, decide who you are becoming. So this is extremely important. You do not change self-image by, criticizing your old one. No. You're going to change it by becoming more intentional about the new one. The old self-image has gotten you to where you are now, to who you are now, and that's a great thing. It's done what it's supposed to do, keep you alive, right? So now you have the power, you're realizing, to start to reorganize, retrain, and be more intentional about your new self image. So I want you to ask yourself, who am I becoming? How does she think? We just talked about this in my community yesterday. Who am I becoming? How does she think? What does she no longer normalize? What does she expect? What does she believe is available for her? How does she carry herself? So, this is part of what we explore more deeply inside my community because I know that women just need space, not only to hear new ideas, but to repeatedly get familiar with themselves toward a new identity until it becomes familiar. And doing that in community actually accelerates the process, which is awesome. Okay, 4th thing, use repetition on purpose, okay? So your subconscious learns through repetition, emotion, and consistency. So if you want a new self image, you can't simply think one good thought and hope it sticks. You have to tend to it. You need repeated exposure to a new picture of yourself. So this can look like a few things. This can look like journaling from the identity of the woman you're becoming. I love doing that. It can look like visualizing yourself responding differently in certain situations. So if you were upset yesterday and you sent off a text or an email that just was not aligned with your, who you're becoming, your next level self, you can sit down and visualize how you would have responded differently to that. It can also look like speaking truth over yourself consistently, and bonus points for doing this in the mirror. Something about looking at yourself in your own eyes and speaking truth over yourself. I love to speak scripture over myself, God's truth over my life and who I am. It can also look like making small choices that reinforce this new identity. So, something that I do a lot is I think, okay, what would the most empowered version of myself do in this situation? And I make a decision from that identity. And it helps me really decide quickly because I know exactly how she would make a decision. So you can make small choices every day that reinforce that new identity. And then number 5, let your choices support the new picture that you're creating. Self image changes not only through thought, but through evidence. So every time you make a choice that aligns with the woman you're becoming, you give your subconscious new material. You're creating some new grooves in your brain. When you set a boundary, you teach yourself, okay, I am the woman who honors herself. When you show up, even though you're scared, you teach yourself, I am the woman who follows through. I am a brave woman. When you receive support, you teach yourself, I am a woman who is actually available for help. When you rest without guilt, you teach yourself, I'm a woman whose worth is not tied to exhaustion. And so these choices matter. It's just reinforcement over and over and over again. So I want to just bring something to attention because I want to normalize something here. When you're changing your self-image, it can feel and it will feel uncomfortable at first. And it's not because you're doing anything bad or wrong. It's not because this is like fake or woo-woo work. It's not because you're forcing something also that feels unnatural. It's because the old version of you is familiar. And familiarity often feels safer than growth. Growth just feels uncomfortable. And doing this subconscious level work, doing this self-image work it's growth. You're growing in new ways. And so this is why sometimes I hear women say, I know what to do, but it still really feels weird. Or I want this, but part of me just keeps resisting. That's normal. That actually shows that you're on the right path. You are growing. You're not only changing thoughts, you're changing what your system recognizes as home. And at first, this new identity might feel a little bit unfamiliar to you. And that does not mean it's not yours. It just simply means that you are in the early stages of embodiment, and that can be a little bit uncomfortable. But you know what? We are not called to stay the same. We are called to continue to grow and continue to step further and further into our divine assignments. So this is also where support matters, okay? Because transformation is extremely difficult to sustain in isolation. We are better together. Sometimes you just need a space where you are reminded regularly throughout the week of who you are becoming until you can hold that vision more steadily for your own self. This is one of the reasons why I love doing this work in community so much. There is something so powerful about being surrounded by women who are also doing this work, who are also telling the truth, who are also practicing new ways of being. It also helps this new identity that you're working on, that you're creating, to feel more real, more reinforced, and a lot less lonely. So, let me give you a simple exercise that you can start with right away. So, what I want you to do is I want you to take out your journal and I want you to create 2 columns, okay? In the first column, write the version of me I have been living as. Okay, do that on the left-hand side of your journal, of that column. And on the right-hand side, I want you to write the version of me I am becoming. And then begin listing them honestly. So, for example, the version of me I've been living as maybe overthinks, waits for certainty or waits for proof, doubts herself, looks outside herself for validation, treats peace as something that she has to earn, expects things to be hard, doesn't think people like her. Okay? The version of me I'm becoming trusts herself, moves with clarity, makes decisions quickly, speaks with absolute conviction, is willing to receive support, values peace as normal, expects expansion, expects blessings every single day. So this isn't about pretending that the old version or the current version of yourself never existed. It's about becoming conscious of the shift that you are making. And then I want you to ask yourself each day, what is one choice I can make today based on that list that reinforces the woman I am becoming? And one choice is enough to begin. You're going to start stacking choices. And before you know, you are operating as a completely different person. I want to leave you with a few takeaways. And the first one is that your self image is shaping your life, whether you're aware of it or not. This stuff is happening in the background no matter what. What I want you to do is to become aware of it so that you can start shifting if that's what you desire. And I'm guessing you do because you're here. So if you want lasting change, you have to become aware of that internal picture that's currently running the show. Okay. Second takeaway, you do not simply get what you want. You tend to get what matches who you believe yourself to be. So, this is why identity work matters so deeply. And then, third, self image is formed, which is great news because it means it can be reformed. So, self image is not fixed, it's not permanent, it is not the deepest truth of who you are. This is something that you can actually change. Okay, fourth takeaway, changing your self image requires repetition, reinforcement, and intentional choice. So this is not a one-time, done thing. It's not a one-time insight. You're not going to listen to this podcast and then be magically changed. It's a process of becoming. And then fifth, the last takeaway is support. Having support in this work accelerates embodiment. Embodiment means becoming becoming the person who you see behind your eyes, okay? You do not have to do this work alone. So if this episode spoke to you, if it called out something that you have felt but you couldn't maybe articulate, and if you're ready to stop just listening to this work and actually begin integrating it, actually begin doing the work, and I hate the word work because it's not hard, it's a lot of fun actually, but actually begin to do this in a deeper way, I want to personally invite you into my community, the Inner Shift Society. So this is a space for women who are ready to shift from the inside out, and that is how you change your life. It's a space for women who want more inspiration. They want to embody their next level self. They want truth. They want support. They want to learn how to embrace repetition, good repetition in their life, and they want to stabilize that woman who they're becoming. So inside, we have conversations around this stuff exactly around identity, around self concept, around your belief and faith, around personal growth. We don't just talk about the next level, we actually practice it. We practice going next level. If you're wanting to expand in your life, in your business, in your income, in your relationships, this is absolutely the place for you. So if you're in a season where you know that your external life is ready to change, but you also know that the real work begins inside of you, you're starting to clue into that, then this is the room that I want to invite you into. So I'll have a link in the show notes where you can join us. And if, as you listen to this, you know that you want even deeper personalized support, that's also the kind of work that I do in private coaching. So my, direct invitation to you today is to get into the room. That's the first step. Join the community. Let's start getting to know each other and working there. Let's go deeper there and, get around the conversations that are happening. Get around the women who are there and get around the repetition that helps this new identity take root because this work will change your life. It has changed mine and so many other people that I've worked with. This work is going to change your life. Anything that you want, you can create, but it starts within. You have to believe it within in order to see it without. Okay. So I want to leave you with this. Your life is not waiting on a better plan. It's not waiting on more pressure or more strategy. It's not waiting on more effort. That's what all my high achieving women think until they hit their breaking point. They're like, okay, there has to be an easier way. There is, I promise. Your life is just waiting on a new self image, on a new level of identity so that you can go to the next level in your life. All right. So, as I say every week, I want you to go this week, today. First, go join the community. Hit that link below. Let's do that. I can't wait to see you. Please send a message to me so that we can start a conversation. But I want you to go and be the woman that your future is waiting on. Okay? Thank you for being here and spending time with me. Until next time, be blessed.